Germans of Reddit, is there any cultural, social, or political differences that remain today between East and West Germany? As an East German, who has traveled a lot, there are a lot of differences between East and West. Small things, usually. East Germans are generally more open about nudity. I basically grew up on nude beaches, whereas many West German friends of mine will either not go, or will be weird about having naked people around them. East Germans will take off their shoes when entering a friend's apartment. West Germans will ask if they can keep their shoes on. East Germans tend to cook vegetables much softer than West Germans. The shaking of hands in East Germans has been mentioned as well. And, yeah. What is important to note, though, is that these are indeed cultural differences, not unlike those found between Northern Germans and Bavarians, or people from the Rhineland and Saxons. It doesn't mean that the wall still exists, not in reality, not in people's minds. It's just regional differences. Another difference is, the bigger cities in East Germany, as well as the highways, are in a much better state, generally newer, much more modern. For the past 20-something years, most money for infrastructure has flown into rebuilding the East, which was in shambles after the wall came down, with nothing going to the West. Really, many big West German cities are just grey and ugly. Prime example, Hanover in the West and Leipzig in the East. The nudity one is interesting. As an outsider living in the southwest of Germany, I got used to the idea of German contextual nudity at my local gym, where the sauna, pool area is mixed and nude, but the change rooms are still separate, and there's a small women-only sauna. Totally different up near Berlin, where you go to big leisure centers with 6 pools, 20 saunas, steam rooms, swim-up bar, restaurants, deck chair areas, all compulsory mixed nude, right down to mixed change rooms. A big family day out, with everyone naked apart from a towel some of the time. The funny thing is that none of the people there would consider themselves nudists, any more than you'd consider yourself one for showering naked at home. I wish the wall was still there. Since we are reunited, those East Germans have come here and taken our jobs. My Turkish father. I was born in East Germany, currently working for a company in West Germany, and Russia, traveling over the old border every day. Feel free to ask me anything. Some random stuff. Better wages in West Germany. West Germans are more religious. More Turks in West Germany, Russians and Vietnamese in East Germany. 1/3 of West Germans never visited East Germany, only 10% of East Germans never visited West Germany. Ample mansion. Better childcare in East Germany. East Germans tend to vote for left-oriented political parties, although the percent ratio of voters who are choosing right-wing parties is higher too. The streets are better in East Germany. I could probably tell you tons of stuff, but I don't know where to start. Political, in Eastern Germany more people tend to vote for parties that are considered left. Like Die Linke oder SPD. In Western Germany more people vote for conservative parties like CDU, in Bavaria it is CSU. A party that got very popular during the last 20 years is Bündnis 90 Die Grünen, which was founded as an environmental party. Cultural, funny thing is people tell you how late it is in 2 different ways. Here you see how it works, here it is described. Social, in Western Germany the average income is higher. There are many factors why there is the difference. Here is an interesting article about it. As a German I can tell you that people have many prejudices. But the younger people, I speak of people born after 1990, have less I think, although of course they also have certain prejudices cause parents and grandparents and other people that were living at the time of split Germany told them. About the accents in Germany, in every federal state are different accents, is not just East or West Germany where one actual accent exists. It really depends on the region or federal state where you are. East Germans shake hands. It is considered impolite to not say, good morning, with a handshake to co-workers when you first see them. They are more likely to insist on last name and formal address, SIE. West Germans don't care as much, they are more likely to use informal address, do, and first name the way it is common in US society. It's normal to say good morning to neighbors and work in the West. Yes, but I don't shake hands with my colleagues in the morning. The unemployment is higher than in the West, the wages are lower and racism is more common in the East. I've heard the same thing about racism. When I was studying abroad in Bonn, I was talking with some Chinese students who had recently been on a trip to Dresden. They said they got openly strange looks from people, and some children even made squinty-eyed faces at them. Granted, Bonn is a more multicultural city, but they hadn't experienced anything like it in the West. As a German, I am glad to read that most people don't see big cultural differences anymore. You are right, but as another German, I'm sad to read that there are prejudices all over the country and that some people take things they observed once as facts for a whole region, part of German. The ones I was astonished most. 1. West German cities are ugly, because of Hanover. 2. Westerners don't and Easterners do take off their shoes when entering an apartment. 3. Almost every region's accent is strange, weird, ugly, and can't be understood by Northerners. 4. Streets are better in the East than in the West. Please stop generalizing the shit out of observations you make. Elle asked this of my German mother-in-law about 10 years ago. She said that for the most part the East was poorer and in more disrepair from its time under Soviet control. Think she may have also said something about education levels too. She said that she felt like a lot of the East Germans held a grudge against the West since they had lived a nicer existence over the past generation. Please don't crucify me for a decade-old conversation if I got it wrong. Just want to help the conversation going beyond. Good question. LOL. She is right, and you can still see that a bit, but it has become better over the last 10 years. Also, the cultural differences start to disappear. Affecting both facts was the agenda, Aufbauost, which demanded Western states to pay for Eastern states. I hope you know that we have a federal system, too. While the agenda helped to push economic growth and put some wealth back into the East, it did not help to reunite the German people, as the Wessis constantly got the feeling they pay for poor or lazy Osses. One think you in the US have some same propaganda, replace Wessis and Osses with rich and poor. Oh, and about the cultural differences, I think there are more real cultural differences between all the different states, or regions, of Germany than overall differences between East and West. However, and that is just a subjective observation, I do not get why some middle-aged women from the East tend to be overweight, cut their hair short and dye it purple. And why their teenage sons look exactly the same. Also in the East you find more Plattenbauten. As an American, Europe blows my mind. There are such drastic cultural differences in a country the size of Montana. The younger generation of Germany doesn't care anymore about the former political East and West Germany. It's just become a phrase to distinguish them from another part of their country, in which the own part will always be better, winky face. But of course there are some cultural differences, which are based on the old East Germany. I'm from East, winking smiley. In the former East it was common to get children early. My mom had my big sister with 21. Today that would be seen as an early sild, and still be a working mom, so the infrastructure of kindergartens, or something called Hort, watching over children in the afternoon in the elementary school, is much better until now. So women from East Germany are often working moms. Also there is something called the Jugendweihe in East Germany, which hasn't an equivalent in the West because it was an atheistic substitute in the DDR for the religious communion. Today you have a celebration which welcomes you in the grown-up world at age 14, but there is no religion involved. I was very sad when one of my cousins from West Germany got 14 and I couldn't give him a present for his Jugendweihe, because he had none, laughing face. I was grown up in a typical city in East Germany, 100,000 inhabitants, and that's one of the things I noticed most about the differences. In my Abiturklasse, kind of high school senior year, there were 200 students, but only 2 Russian and 1 Vietnamese girl, just the most common foreign people until now in East Germany, because of the former communistic political friendship with their countries, and no student was colored. I always felt strange about that, especially when I visited friends in Berlin or West Germany. One of the reasons could be the bad possibilities to work in that special city. It is called Jaya, so after the wall there was no reason to come to Jaya, laughing face. So looking at my own experience, I would say West Germany is more intercultural. Also some say that East Germans are not friendlier but more authentic, but it's just a prejudgmental thing, I guess. East Germans really like bananas. One of the things I noticed driving through East and West Germany in the middle of winter was that the Autobahnen in the west were all cleaned of snow pretty damn quick, smart by the winterdienst, but it's left for up to a few days in the east to get all slushy and dirty. Same thing in the streets. There was a clear distinction between Freiburg plus Frankfurt and Leipzig. It's just one example of the lingering economic difficulties the East face, even 20 plus years after the Wiedervereinigung, reunification. See my response to Titan Chip's comment for a more detailed explanation of my point of view. I think the relationship between East and West Germans is kind of like the relationship between two brothers. Let's call East Germany Hans, and West Germany Klaus. So Klaus was always the model kid, not very adventurous, maybe not exactly living life to the fullest, but he wanted to have a good and secure future. So he never skipped class, always studied and brought home good grades. He graduated, went to university and did the same without partying too much if at all. Klaus then got a good job and made a decent career, earning good cash. Hans on the other hand struggled in school and got mixed up with the wrong crowd. He started doing drugs early, and even though he and Klaus always loved each other, Hans became increasingly reclusive and the bad crowd became his new family. He didn't graduate, got a shit job and turned to alcohol abuse. At some point he got so fucked up that he landed in the hospital with emergency operation because his life was in danger. Now Klaus was there for Hans all the time, but it wasn't until the hospital visit that they really were brothers again. Klaus pledged to help Hans turn his life around if he tried, and Hans pledged to do so. Fast forward 50 years later. Klaus is still doing well, his career is steadily going, he gets promoted regularly and brings home good money. Hans struggles, understandably, to adjust to a life he hasn't known for a long time. To rigid structures, being at work on time, doing what you are told, not doing drugs on weekdays and only drinking in moderation. He tries but he struggles, and time and again he comes up short. He also has outstanding debts from his past and present. Being the good, loving brother that he is, Klaus doesn't need Hans to ask him. He offers to help him financially and doesn't even expect repayment, like ever. They are bros after all, and Klaus just wants Hans to do well and to be able to live and enjoy life the same way Klaus was privileged to do. But this has been going on for 50 years now. The increasing financial strain from so many years of supporting Hans has not gone unnoticed on Klaus' own budget and has left its dents in his own wealth. He still has to work very hard and is starting to be fed up with supporting Hans because he sees no end in sight. Additionally, during family gatherings, Hans ever so often shows traits of the kind of racism and behavior patterns that led to him running with that bad crowd that got him into all this trouble in the first place. The final straw for Klaus is when he sees Hans drive by in a new, leased, BMW, which is much nicer than Klaus' own mediocre VW Golf, used. Klaus vows to stop supporting Hans financially but is guilted into continuing to do so by the rest of his family. Hans in the meantime looks at Klaus with continued resentment, because no matter how hard he tries, he just fucked up too much in the early parts of his life to even come close to Klaus' success. But he refuses to acknowledge that. To him, Klaus is overprivileged. He doesn't even know what he has, and he constantly has to shove his success into Hans' face. Hans is gonna lease a new BMW, that's gonna show Klaus. All in all, these two brothers love each other, but to Klaus, Hans is sort of a lost cause, and he has accepted that he will have to carry his useless ass for the rest of his life. While Hans thinks Klaus is just an asshole and simply was lucky, and if he had gone through what Hans had to go through, etc. Germany as a country really hasn't existed in a complete form for much time at all. From the original Germanic tribes, which were rather disjointed as a whole, to the Holy Roman Empire, the First Reich, which could be considered Frankish rather than German specifically, as it encompassed France, Italy, and a good part of Iberia also. Then the HRE shrank down a bit, and stumbled along as more a collection of city-states, until Prussia decided it wanted to go full awesome, and forged the Deutsches Reich, which was the Second Reich. Then comes the part more people know about, World War I, LL and cold. Germany, as a nation, really only existed from 1871 to 1945. Any splits between cultures from the division between 1945 to 1989 is going to be minuscule compared to things like the Catholic-Protestant divisions during the HRE era, and city-state divides before and after that, which encompassed a millennium and more. East has strange accents. Ganze Fleisch mal den Kofferraum aufmachen? Dash, would you mind opening the trunk? Familiar phrase for anyone crossing the border to the GDR. That's Saxonian for you. Ganze Fleisch, literally, goose meat, is what a Saxon saying, Konin SIEVL late, would you mind, sounds like, while, aufmachen, is their way of pronouncing aufmachen, open. As an Alsatian who's regularly been in Western and Southwestern Germany during my school years, and is now studying in Berlin, I can assess that there still are differences between the East and West. A lot has already been said about employment, wages, political parties. I'll try not to mention them again, but bear with me if I'm repeating some stuff. It is true that in Eastern Germany, left political parties, SPD, Socialists, Die Linke, Sozialo-Communists, traditionally get far more votes than in the West, but it's no infallible rule. For example, southwestern Baden-Württemberg is currently ruled by a socialist ecologist coalition. On the other hand, because Illinois history was treated and taught differently by the East and West governments, the countryside Eastern Germany is more prone to vote for the far-right, nationalist NPD, thinking it is the solution to the high unemployment and relative poverty in the East. Western Germany remains that rich, wealthy part of the country, where life isn't cheap, and the atmosphere in the cities is more classical. Bourgeois, or schickimicki, whereas eastern cities are cheap to live in, and the alternative scene is far more developed than in the West. You can live a far less formal lifestyle in the East, without people looking awkwardly at you for not fitting in the mold. As a result, East Germans often like to make fun of the Western and Southern costly and formal lifestyle, while West Germans are sometimes getting pissed that they have to pay for the rebuilding of the East. Getting nothing in exchange. And in Berlin, the true Berliners are getting more and more pissed to see their city being invaded by wealthy southwestern Germans, who contribute to the general raise of loans and prices, forcing modest people to move out of the city. Surely, the differences are fading away with each new generation. The current 20-year-old generation hasn't even known the wall time. But even when the differences from the Cold War will have vanished entirely, there will still remain big dissimilarities between the different parts of Germany. The people who live in the Rhine Valley and at the foot of the Alps have a clearly different cultural background than those from the East, who share a lot with Polish or Central European cultures. I'm an East German, so this is my personal view on that topic. The pay gap between East and West, the average is 17%. A lot of Eastern Germans work in the West and go home for the weekends. The part of the population with foreign roots is much higher in the West. There is no state parliament in the West, where the NPD, biggest right-wing party in Germany, got seats. In the East, those weirdos sit in several state parliaments and city councils. We also got a lot of neo-Nazis here, especially in areas with a low population density and small town areas. In difference to the West, furthermore, education is for free in the East, in some states of the West also, but not in general. Oh, and we got a more relaxed drug policy in difference to some Southwest states. It's pretty rough to grow up here. And don't build up prejudices, because your grandparents and parents doesn't miss a chance to tell you how fucked up the Western guys are. Then some friends of you go to the West after school to start studying and tell you stories, where they were treated like wankers, just because they are from the East. I don't play games with others because they are from beyond. The differences in dialects vary from state to state, and even worse, inside the state as well. For example, I live in northwest of Saxony. Our slang is terrible, but there are areas here where I don't understand the locals if they don't make a little effort. You can say that there are differences, but most of them are caused through local traditions and not through the splitting. I grew in West Germany and have moved to the East about 2 years ago. I would say there is a difference, but it's mostly the fact that all bad things are now attributed to the West. The East has a lot of socio-economical problems, subsidized factories no longer supported, lack of skilled laborers, etc. And since a lot of people thought that capitalism meant freedom and riches for everyone, they now feel cheated. Many people tend to romanticize the past because that's just what people do. Frustration leads to resentment, and it's always easier to blame the government or the arrogant Westerners. The newer generations that didn't know the GDR often just experience the difficulties in getting a job and repeat the phrases of extremist politicians and their parents. Of course, not all of them do, but many. The funny thing is, people in the West feel cheated because there is still a solidarity tax to make up for the underdeveloped economy in post-Soviet Germany, so they feel as if the people in the East get unearned subsidiaries. But, IMO, the truth is that vast areas of East Germany just weren't prepared for a free market. And both sides forget that their areas just as poor on both sides, the old example. Some cities like Dresden and Leipzig are getting there and are becoming popular, but it may still take some time. Cultural differences are definitely there, but aren't there always some differences in different areas? In East and West Germany, it just gets put on East and West instead of just normal local variations. TIDR, East suffers from bad economy and shut down factories, romanticizes past. West has also poor areas, is fed up with paying for the East. Born and raised in West Germany, small village, and moved to East Germany to study. I think there are still differences. Many more people with a low social background, and I consider them to be really strange. For example, so many girls with colored hair wearing Nike Air Max and just look dumb, stupid. The inner cities are really nice in the East because of Aufbauost. There was plenty of money to spend on that and it was well used. Many students from West Germany come here because it's cheap to live and there are no university tuition fees. So I barely knew any people who were born here. Most of my friends I made while studying are from West Germany. There is still a visible difference in prosperity. Unemployment is a lot higher in the East than in the West. There are simply less jobs. This youth unemployment also leads to much higher neo-Nazi numbers, since young people often have literally nothing to do, no future, no positive outlook. They are much more open for the lies of a few hate-mongers than young people in the West would be. Some cultural differences that I haven't seen mentioned. East votes more radical, both ways, left and right. West more the traditional big two, socialists and conservatives. Greens are bigger in the West, except Berlin, which is in the East but pretty progressive. Techno is bigger in the East, reggae bigger in the West, plus of course all other music is popular on both sides. When military or social service was compulsory, until 2 years ago, men in the West, those that went to do military duty, were perceived as dumb, proletariat. In the East, those that did social service were often perceived as weak, soft. Food habits, coffee is bigger in the East, but very much consumed in all of Germany. I think Germans are close to the coffee kings of the world, right after Norway or so. Bananas are more popular in the East, apples in the West. Third language, still today Easters are more likely to choose Russian, and have it offered in school, and Westers more likely to choose French. Second language is nearly always English. Drinking culture is slightly different, hard to describe, but let's just say the West does beer, the East likes harder stuff. People from the East seems often more nationalist to me, but that might be a biased sample. The West has more left-wing radicals, the East, except Berlin, more right-wing radicals. Note that all these are just my personal perceptions. I might be off in many ways. As an American who's lived in Germany, I was surprised to learn the huge disparity in attitude between the North Germans and South Germans. I'd qualify the border at about Frankfurt. I'll easily exclude Berlin from this, but most Northern Germans are pretty fucking ice cold and frankly, all out mean. It's almost like they can't help it or like they don't realize it. Truly, it's mystifying even to other Germans. LVE discussed this with. The explanation I heard over and over was for me to just accept it. As for your question, I easily made friends with East Germans, often. Most East Germans I knew and befriended had grown up in the old system and even, at times, reminisced about its virtue before the reunification. The irony, as I see, is the rampant nationalism that defines many of these cats. After being closed off for so long, the rest of the world moved along, and the presence of even a non-white person can make things uncomfortable for them. I know that sounds demeaning, but the Great Soviet Experiment really was a pile of shit. East Germans are less verbal about their feelings than West Germans. I noticed that in former socialist, communistic countries in generally people are more stoic. Now living in America I miss German reasoning skills period, haha.